And good morning to you all. Thanks for joining us today. And we're glad to host you virtually. We've done these meetings in person before, and we look forward to getting back to having you guys actually on campus to visit with us. But I just wanted to let you know a little bit about how the day will go. We have an agenda plan, but we're a little bit relaxed with it. It's kind of a loosely planned agenda. And Murad, you want to put that up real quick, or?
Yep.
I'll show you what the idea is, but as I said, it's a little bit more relaxed because it's a Saturday with you. So we're going to start off. This is our welcome. Myself, I'm Allison Bryant, of course, Associate Director of Recruitment and Outreach, with Mr. Murad Dibbini, our Director of Enrollment Management. And
welcome, everybody.
You can tell who we are. We're matching here today. So we want to talk a little bit about the PharmD application process. We're going to talk about financial aid scholarships and the real value that we feel that you get from attending USC, which is unparalleled, and we have reasons to believe that. Our student panel, we've got some great continuing students, Ms. Emily Howe, class of 23, and Mr. Aaron Boyer, also class of 23, and Miss Cindy Nguyen, who is class of 24. And so we've got a couple of UCI alums who are going to be with us today. And they'll tell you about their journeys, their experiences, what USC pharmacy has meant to them up until this point. And then we'll talk a little bit about getting ready for the essay and interview process. We'll do a little quick MMI demonstration for you guys to critique, and then we'll close up. So as I said, this is, our interview is, kind of a little bit loose today, but this is what our plan is. And we look forward to having a lot of Q&A also. So during that student panel and right afterwards, we're going to have chances for you guys to talk to our students, really engage and ask some questions of them. We can also do some of that if there are leftover questions during the closing remarks. But we would like to kind of have it interactive. I mean, we can always take a look at questions from the chat, but don't be shy. We're a nice, comfortable, small group today, and it would be great to see your faces if you're not feeling shy this morning, and to just, engage. Feel free to ask questions really at any point. Murad?
Yep. Well, I think just wanted to say welcome and glad to meet all of you, at least through Zoom. Hope you guys are all doing well and getting through the semester. I'm sure it's, a bit different, because I'm assuming everybody's doing classes virtually. So, I hope that's going well for everybody. And yeah, that this pandemic comes to an end and we can do this in person again soon. So we always enjoy really connecting with UCI students. It's our largest it's our largest feeding school or feeding program. We get most of our students, or a lot of our incoming class come from UCI. So we know the importance of connecting with you guys and really, helping you guys out. UCI students do extremely well at USC. A lot of them come and they do extremely well academically. They're involved, they're engaged, and they're doing a lot of big things. And so, we're always really, excited to talk to UCI students and hope that we can help answer some questions today. So should I get the presentation started, Allison?
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Okay.
And we'll start talking to you a little bit about what USC has got to offer you and why we think we have some exceptional value that you can take care of at USC. So we're going to explore the PharmD program today and a little bit about where you are on your path to pharmacy. So we know that the Pre-Pharmacy Society has got students at different places. You might be just thinking about pharmacy and maybe considering other health professions and which direction you might want to go in, or already know that you want to do pharmacy, not ready to apply yet, but pretty much certain that pharmacy is the way you want to go. You could be at the application point as well. We've got several students already applying, and we started doing interviews in October. So you could be already in the mix, and you might have already finished your application process for the year. You know, maybe you were even a student who wanted early decision. So we know that you're in different places on your path to the road to pharmacy. And let me tell you a little bit about USC in terms of our numbers. We are the #1 private PharmD program. We've got the highest entering salary for PharmD grads, which I'll tell you what that is specifically a little later. This is the key, though. I think that everybody looks at these presentations and thinks, well, what's in it for me? We have something that's in it for you because we've got 10,000 alumni living and working worldwide within California, the entire United States of America, and abroad. And even in countries where we may not have alumni, we have faculty and alumni with connections in those places. That's good for you because it means you can do rotations in multiple locations. It means when you're out looking for a job, there are going to be connections in multiple locations. It means that when you come to our pharmacy conversations, you'll hear our alums talking about what they've done with the PharmD degree in many different areas, many different demographics. So I think that number of alumni, that 10,000, is really a benefit to our students right now. But also, we were the first PharmD program. We've got 6 areas of concentration offered to PharmD students, which means we've got a pretty flexible curriculum that you can tailor to your particular needs and interests. In addition to that, of course, we have dual master's programs, a dual PharmD PhD program. So whatever your interest may be, you can find a way to tailor our curriculum to meet your needs. And the 10-to-1 faculty-student ratio means that you've got contact with our faculty and you have many, many opportunities for being mentored throughout your career here. Again, we've got a long history of firsts. Because we've been around since 1905, we're very well established. First 4-year bachelor's degree in pharmacy, first PharmD program, first clinical pharmacy program, but then we come down to first clinical clerkships for pharmacy students. And again, this is what I think is the real benefit to you guys today, is that these clinical clerkships that you'll be going on, your IPI and API rotations, the introductory pharmacy practice experiences that begin in your first year, in fact, in your first semester, this gives you immediate experience. And USC was the first school to recognize how important that is. And we still know of its importance. We have alumni who are pharmacy hiring managers in hospitals and in industry, and they tell us how important it is to have experience coming out. And because of the way our program is structured, chances are by the time you graduate, you will have had fully 1 year of experience, actual hands-on, even outside of the IPIs and APIs, because you're likely to be working as a pharmacy intern. So that, I think, in addition to all the other things that we have been innovators at, I think is really what benefits you guys.
Thanks, Allison. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the curriculum and you know, as far as our current students who are here, if I miss something or if you feel like there's something to add, please do so. But our curriculum is a 4-year program, and I think that's important for everybody to know. You know, as many of you do know, there are schools who are 3-year program. There are some accelerated programs, but we are 4-year. And we have no intention in moving to a 3-year or moving into any kind of an accelerated at this point. We truly believe, our faculty truly believe in the 4-year program, because we hear from employers, you know, we hear from Kaiser execs, we hear from industry execs, hospital execs about how USC students are extremely prepared, more prepared than students from other programs. And that's because of we believe that it has a lot to do with being a 4-year program. You get your full summers off. You know, you get your full summers, and our students are working 40+ hours a week during those summers. And so not only are they, and I think Allison will talk a little bit about this later, but not only do you have a chance to earn money, but you're getting a whole lot of experience. And then, you know, during the 4 years here, you really, again, you're able to pick up as much as you can, learn as much as you can. And so by the time you do graduate, you're really, you're ready to start the profession. Our semester, we have full semesters, as you can see, 11 to 19 units per semester. Your first 2 years are pretty loaded. Like you've got 18 units, I believe, those first 2 years every semester. And then kind of when you get to your third year, your third didactic year, your P3 year, you do have an opportunity to pick up more electives, maybe 1 or 2 in the P2 year, and then a couple more in the P3 year. And then your fourth year is completely on rotation. So we do offer a variety of specialty elective courses. That's what's unique about USC is we're, again, exposing you and offering classes in so many different areas of pharmacy. Allison talked about the areas of concentration, the dual degree options. All of these allow you to really help differentiate yourselves. And we do that by offering courses that are in so many different areas. And then, the IPPE and the APPE, so the introductory pharmacy practice experience and the advanced pharmacy practice experience, that's where you're going to get your internship hours. In California, you need 1,500 plus internship hours to be able to practice, before you take the exam and so forth. And you get that through just doing your IPPEs and APPEs here at USC. It's part of the curriculum. And what's unique about USC is that you start right away. Within the first 3 weeks of the program, you're actually out on your first rotation. So as long as your intern license process goes smooth and everything, you're ready to go, you could be out on rotation within 3 or 4 weeks of you starting the program. That is unique to USC. I think there's a lot of schools that wait much longer. And then your fourth year is entirely out on rotations, 6-week rotations, and you're doing 6 of them throughout that fourth year, your P4 year. Allison talked a little bit about mentorship, and that's extremely important at USC. A lot of your future, it really goes back to people that you were mentored by, the connections that you make, and it lasts you a lifetime. Mentorship, connections, the networks that you're going to have and that you're going to build will last you a lifetime at USC. And that, again, is also unique to what we have to offer. But you get 18 different mentors during the curriculum while you're in the program. And so imagine being able to connect with 18 different folks, whether it's faculty, preceptors, advisors, and so forth. And you're able to just learn from them. They help guide you. They help shape you into the pharmacist that you want to be. We have comprehensive co-curricular opportunities. We have some of the largest student, we have professional, I believe 19, maybe more student organizations on campus. So that really supports co-curricular opportunities. And then interprofessional education, which is integrated into the curriculum. So through some case studies, we have a new partnership with Kaiser now, where our students are able to really learn from other students in other health professions. And as you can see here, when we asked our graduates last year, who do they interact with during the curriculum while they were here? And as you could see, a lot of them listed so many different health professions: occupational therapists, nurses, physician assistants, physical therapists, social workers, physicians, public health, psychology, dentists. So you could see that it's extremely important, right? When you're out there in working in the profession, you're going to have to interact with folks from different areas. And I think it's important that you have that experience while you're in school and while you're getting your PharmD. And at USC, you get that opportunity. And this is obviously important, right? We talk about examinations, and it's one thing to get your degree, but if you don't pass the exams, then you can't practice. And you can see how serious USC takes this. The NAPLEX is the national exam. So over 98% of our students are, this is a 5-year trend too, by the way. This is the 5-year from 15 to 19. So you could see that we're near the top in California, and then you could see that the CPJE, which is the California exam, and the more difficult exam, from 15 to 19, we were at the top. And so what we do is that, your P4 year, you're out in rotations, but what we do is we bring you back for that last month before you actually graduate, and we just really review, and really help you, refresh your do a quick refresher of all the things you've learned in those 4 years and help you prepare for these exams. So, we do take this very seriously, as you can see. You're muted, Allison.
All right, thanks, Murad. And so bringing all this together, what happens at the end is our students have among the top highest entering salaries in the pharmacy profession. And what is this for you? It's going to allow a comfortable lifestyle. It's going to be allowing you to, manage your career and make choices. So this is very important. And that is what the average entering salary is. It speaks to the value of USC. And where did our graduates earn these salaries? Well, we've seen a little bit of a change over the past few years. When I first began in the School of Pharmacy, by far most of our graduates went to chain and community pharmacies. I mean, by far and away, that was the dominant, career path that people followed. It's been changing though over the years, and you can see it is now slightly outpaced by people who are choosing to go into hospital areas. And we're very strong in that in terms of, again, providing you with the kind of education that will prepare you for careers in clinical pharmacy, to go into hospital settings. Community settings are obviously still strong. Independent community pharmacy, clinic-based pharmacy, many of our students are interested in that, as well as pharmaceutical industry, managed care, consulting. And then, one of the fields that I like to talk about the most is the fact that you can also work with animals. You can go into compounding for veterinary medicine. That's one of the careers that comes under the other category. But there are many different options that you can choose from beyond what I think people feel is traditional pharmacy. You'll see that on the next slide, because you'll see a lot of traditional pharmacy careers in Rite Aid and CVS and Walgreens. But you look closely in there and you also see Keck Medicine of USC and Kaiser Permanente, Norris Cancer Hospital, Amgen, okay, Genentech, Allergan. And so more and more we're seeing people move toward those careers because we're preparing them to do so. We're giving you the kind of background and education you'll need to go into any of the subspecialties of pharmacies and the networking that's provided so that you will begin to be exposed to those folks during your rotations, while you're out practicing as a pharmacy intern. You will start to meet more and more people who have gone in different areas and can guide you in ways that will do the same thing. And of course, we're going to provide as many resources as possible. Because, for example, when we do our pharmacy conversation, which I know some of you have attended those, we're talking to people all over the place. We've talked to our faculty and alumni here. We've talked to alumni as far away as Boston, and we keep bringing in folks who have not stayed right here in Southern California. That's another great part of USC. You have so many people that you can network with right in your own class. You'll have about 190 of them. And that trend continues as you go through the program, as you go on rotations. Even as I was saying, not just in the United States, we've had students go as far away as Australia. It's not marked down there, but again, just because we don't have alumni in a place doesn't mean we don't have connections there, because I know we've sent students to Australia, as well as Belize, as well as in the co-curricular program, students have gone pretty regularly to Tijuana to work with some of the medical students and have established relationships with these communities in supporting them. And that's just while you're in school. So again, that robust network definitely works to your advantage.
Thanks, Allison. And so how do you get in, right? That's sure a question many of you are asking. What are the admission requirements and so forth? And so I'm going to talk to you about that here for the next few slides. A bachelor's degree is required at USC, and that's, I think we're one of maybe two left in the state of California that actually require the bachelor's degree. A lot of schools have gone away from that and just require the prereqs and so forth, but we still require it. We believe that it does help prepare students for the rigor of a PharmD curriculum. It really is not, it's not undergraduate anymore. It's not even your typical graduate program, and the students, I'm sure, will tell you it is a rigorous program. And so we do feel that the bachelor's degree is required, and we don't, have any plans of changing that. Also, as you can see, we have a minimum GPA of 3.0, both cumulative and prereq. With that, you know, we always recommend folks, if you're borderline and you have a chance to retake a prereq to get a higher grade and you have the time, go for it. Do it. You know, if you got a C in something, you retake it and get an A, you can really bring that prereq GPA up. So something to keep in mind. As far as the prereqs, you have to get a C or higher in all of the required prereqs. So that, just keep that in mind. So a C- doesn't cut it, and you'll have to have a C or higher. Official transcripts are also recommended from all the schools you've attended. All that goes to PharmCast. 3 letters of recommendation are also required. So make sure you pick good recommenders, folks that will give you a high evaluation. And then the mandatory interview, and we'll talk a little more about that later. These are the prereqs. So as you can see, general biology, a year's worth of general chemistry, as well as organic chemistry, calculus class, statistics class, microbiology class, and then biochemistry and human physiology. The only one that needs to be done at a 4-year, just so you guys know, is biochemistry. So keep that in mind. I mean, obviously, probably most of you are getting these classes in your current program. If you're missing 1 or 2 here or there, you know, feel free, as long as it's not biochemistry, you can take those at a community college if needed. So that's something. Now, if you click on that barcode right there, or if you go to that barcode, that'll actually take you to a website where you can search for UC Irvine, and it'll actually give you the exact courses at UC Irvine that we do require. So it'll just help make it easier for you. But yeah, so this just gives you an idea of what classes we're looking for. How to apply. Again, if you're familiar with PharmCast, that's where you go to apply to any pharmacy school in the country. So you go to pharmcast.org. They'll list all the schools. You'll check off the ones you want. Obviously, you pay more depending on how many. Every school you select, you're going to pay a bit more. So maybe good to have a top 3 or 5 by the time you're starting to apply. And going back real quick to the prereqs, you don't have to have these prereqs done before you apply. Keep that in mind. You just have to have them done before you start the program. So if you still, like, let's say for those of you who are graduating in May of this year, and you know, and you are applying right now, for example, and you still have 2 or 3 prereqs, you can finish those in the fall, in the winter, in the spring, in the, you know, you can finish it as long as you have your courses done before August of when you would start the program. So if you're juniors right now and you're planning to graduate, let's say in 2021, you would probably be applying, if you're not going to take a gap year, you would be applying next July. And so, you know, you don't have to have all your prereqs done by July. You just have to have them done before you start. So going back to how to apply, you go to PharmCast, and then you program materials. You could see some schools may have like a supplemental application that you have to go to their website to complete. We don't. Everything is in the PharmCast application. We've added our essays in the PharmCast application, so we keep it simple. It's in one place. We are rolling admission. So what that means is, you know, we have interviews from October through March. So we just had our first set. We have our second set coming up in November, and we have interviews again that go all the way through March. And not only that, if you interview in October and you don't get admitted right away, that doesn't mean you don't have a shot to get in. You know, we still review you really through almost July. Like, we'll review students all the way through the summer sometimes. So that's rolling admission. We you know, there's always a chance for you to get into USC. And then you submit transcripts to PharmCast. We talked about that. And then academic updates. So for those of you who are applying now, let's say, for example, you're taking a prereq class right now in the fall. When you're done with that class, when those grades are posted, you'll send those transcripts to PharmCast for academic updates. And then here's the application dates. So as you can see, every year the application opens up mid-July. So whenever you're ready to apply, always know that PharmCast opens up mid-July. And then the regular application deadline for USC is early December. Always going to be early December. And so some schools are early November, some schools are January. So again, you know, if you go to PharmCast, you can see all the schools and their deadlines. Now, early decision, this was the last year that PharmCast is allowing schools to have early decision. So that's a decision that they've made. Whether we decide to have our own early decision is something that we would, you know, our admission committee will decide. But at least through PharmCast, it is the last time you'll see early decision. Here are the application essays. So you can take a picture of this, you know, get a head start on what it looks like. I don't think it's anything surprising. It's why USC, you know, why pharmacy, you know, what unique life experience you've had. Question 3 is related to folks who maybe come from a different profession. Maybe they were a teacher or a business woman and they decided they wanted to, you know, change careers and go into pharmacy. We like to learn a little bit more about why. So you can kind of get an idea of what the application essays are like. Here are the interview dates for this year. So as you can see, everything is online this year, which is, you know, we miss seeing the students, that's for sure, in person, but, you know, we're still able to have interviews virtually. We had our first set again, October 8th and 9th. It went really well. And we have another set coming up next week. So we're excited about that. And as you can see, we have interviews all the way through March. So if you don't get an interview right away, you've got a shot all the way through March. Allison, I'll let you take this slide.
Thanks, Murad. Back to the value of USC. Consider USC as an investment, because really it is. It's an investment in your education and the training you're going to get and in your future. So you see the tuition here and the estimated fees. The total amount that it costs to attend USC is on the left. The type of aid that you can get depends on a lot of individual factors. Could depend, for example, on family income. That'll make you eligible for specific types of loans. And if you're not interested in those, you can always get the unsubsidized Stafford and Federal Graduate Plus loan, as well as private loans. But keep in mind for the Stafford and the Graduate Plus loan, the Stafford is generally open to nearly everyone. And if you want to go beyond that, if you have a need to go beyond that, Federal Graduate Plus loan, just make sure you check your credit, because they do check credit for that. So make sure that everything is clean on that, and you've got time to clean it up too, if there are any problems. And if you do run into anything, Ms. Julie Andaya, who is our Associate Director of Financial Aid, can help you out a lot with that. And the biggest thing that I want to pull your attention to is what we're going to talk about on the next slide, and that's our scholarships. We have been really working on increasing those. Our dean and our development office are working on making sure that we increase the amount of scholarships that are going to be available to our students. So we offer a wide variety. You are sure to qualify for some scholarships if you've demonstrated any leadership, community service. Those are some of the criteria that donors are looking for. Also specific career interests within the pharmacy professions, or if you've just been a great student, or if you have financial need and extenuating circumstances. We've got scholarships that begin at $2,500 per year and go up to exceedingly generous amounts from there. And most of those scholarships are going to be annually renewable as well. So if you keep meeting the criteria for the particular scholarship, you can count on it being renewed from year to year. So we'll keep you informed. We have a scholarship website, and we'll let you know what is available. We send out e-blasts whenever we get word of scholarships, not only through the university, but outside the school as well. So we'll let you know what you can do to defray those costs. And our information session dates, we're having one that's coming up on November the 20th. So if you can attend, that would be a great thing to attend. If you're already on EMP and you've been getting invitations to these, then definitely try and attend. It'll be at noon until about 1 or 1:30. And we'll have faculty guests there, students again, and you'll be able to ask any questions that might occur to you after you have been through today's sessions. So that's coming up, so kind of mark your calendars for that. And so those are the things that we want you to keep in mind about USC, the immediate experience that you get in terms of the rotations, the IPPEs and APPEs, as well as getting your pharmacy internship license right away, flexible degrees that are tailored to your experience and to making you more competitive in the job market, and an unparalleled alumni network that's going to be helping you not only through the School of Pharmacy, but in your career. Those are the value things that you can get that'll make a difference in your life. So that's our message to you today. If you want to reach out, definitely do. Anytime you have questions, we go by alpha lists. So if your last name is A through L, I'm your contact. If it is M through Z, it's Miss Nayatanya, our coworker. And we're happy to talk to you about any questions. Since we're at home most of the time, Zoom meetings are good too. That gives us a little something more to look forward to. So feel free to reach out. Okay. So with that, any questions right now? If there's anything that's a question right now, we can pause for a moment and take that before we move on to our next session, which is going to be to introduce our great students who have joined us this morning, and they're going to talk a little bit about their journeys.
Yes, I do actually have a question.
Okay.
So would you like to talk a little bit more about your areas of concentration and your dual degrees?
Sure, sure. We've got 6 areas of concentration. And Murad, did you want to, if I miss any, jump in, okay?
Sure, sure. And I'm gonna see if I can actually
Find
the document.
for that. That's where you can absolutely, Ryan, tailor the curriculum to your interests. Students use the areas of concentration by using their electives to fill in areas of interest that can include academia, entrepreneurialism, industry, research, global health, and I think I am missing one. But those areas of concentration allow you basically to utilize your elective units so that you're more exposed to the areas of interest. It can also help you, and our students can talk a little bit more about that, because once they're going through their P3 year, they will basically have a research project that they have to work on and submit. And so if you're working in an area that you're interested in, that will help you with that. For dual degree people, the first thing you want to keep in mind is make sure that you get into pharmacy school first. That's the first thing. And then once you're admitted, you can look at our dual degrees in areas like global health, in business, for example, in research. You can then branch off and decide, okay, I want to add another degree to that, and what's that going to mean? And we will advise you on how to pursue it. And in some cases, it means that you'll be going, if you're in business school, all the way to UPC to take business classes. Of course, right now that would be virtually for the moment. But here, Murad's pulled up the areas of concentration so that you can get it. I think the one that I may have missed is the comprehensive medication management in high-risk populations. And for dual degree, business, research, law, gerontology, global medicine, healthcare decision analysis, which right now is, I think, the most popular. It is a degree that basically is described as kind of an MBA for pharmacists and helps you with making the decisions and being involved a little bit more on the business end of the pharmacy profession. Also, there's public health and regulatory science. So you can also see the specialized electives that will help you basically in determining your path. You're able to study the things that you're interested in and able to start working towards those areas of concentration that we mentioned. If you're thinking that that might meet your need for specialization and that you don't want a full dual degree, you have the areas of concentration.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Other questions right now about the presentation we just went through? Everybody's pretty good with that? All right, well, let's move on then and introduce our 3 current USC students. They're going to tell you a little bit about their path and their interests and possibly their future plans. Miss Emily Howe, who is a P2, and she's an alum of UCI. Also, Mr. Aaron Boyer, another P2, and Miss Cindy Nguyen. And I'm gonna start with Emily and let her introduce herself and talk a little bit about her path. And then we'll go on through our 3 students and you can engage with them as well. Emily?
Hi, everyone. So I do see a lot of familiar faces from undergrad. So for those who don't know me, my name's Emily. I'm a current P2 student at USC. I graduated from UC Irvine in 2019, so I did not take a gap year and I went straight into pharmacy school. During my time at UCI, I was pretty involved with PPS, so it's great coming back, being able to be on the student panel and kind of just share my experiences so far at USC. I've had a pretty good first year. Ours was in person. I know like the P1 year right now is a little different, but I had a really good time meeting all of my classmates during orientation, pre-orientation, and kind of just getting to know my professors and as well as my classmates through different organizations as well. So at USC right now, I'm involved in technically like 2 different organizations. So I'm Vice President of Admissions and Recruitment for ASSP, which is kind of like equivalent to ASUCI at UC Irvine. So it's like our student government. And then I'm also involved with the Diabetes Patient Care Project for APSA, which is kind of like a networking organization. So it's very similar to PPS. Right now, I'm currently working at Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center. So it is an inpatient internship. And I'm sure if you guys have more questions later about kind of like the opportunities are involved that are presented at USC, whether it's like organizations or job opportunities, we can definitely speak upon that later on. Oh, my future plans for pharmacy. At the moment, I'm kind of undecided. I have several specialties that are like more interesting to me. So like academia, emergency medicine, and ambulatory care, but I haven't really decided on like which specific field I want to go into. I just at the moment want to pursue residency.
Okay, great. And Aaron.
All right, guys. So my name's Aaron Boyer. I was also a graduate from UC Irvine back in 2018, so I did take a gap year. When I was at UCI, I wasn't very much involved in pre-pharmacy society, but I was involved in a lot of kind of non-pharmacy related things, which was kind of different for me. But I always knew that I did want to attend pharmacy school, actually since high school. That's why I went to UCI, just like many of you probably did. So like I said, I am a P2. So during my first year, I was involved in several things, such as being class president of my class. And then now as a P2, I'm a student ambassador, part of the Students Admissions Committee. I'm involved in several clubs and organizations, such as I'm the director of Interprofessional Education in the medical and pharmacy student collaboration, which is something Mr. Dibbini was actually talking about earlier, which has some involvement in the Kaiser connection and getting more involved with other disciplines such as medical, pharm, or occupational therapy, physical therapy, PAs, because that's something that's kind of important because a lot of our profession is getting involved with other professions. So it's good to get to know how to work with them now. So other things I am involved in was something Miss Bryant was talking about. Was I, as a P1 last year, was chosen to be part of the USC CAPS lead team, which is basically a student leadership conference that you attend and then you go on to do a scholarly project or a research project. So I can talk about that if any of you guys have questions, but everybody does have to do a scholarly project at USC. Usually it doesn't really start till the end of your P2 year and P3 year, but since I was part of that team, I started mine a little bit early. And I currently am an intern at Memorial Care in Long Beach Medical Center. And my future goals is to pursue a residency in acute care. And I do want to pursue a career in basically critical care / acute care in an inpatient clinical setting. Then I believe Cindy can go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Cindy and I am a first year student at USC. So I was actually involved in PPS during my first few years at UCI, just like Emily, and that's how we actually met. And I see a lot of familiar faces here as well. So I'm glad to see you guys coming out and being proactive because I feel like it's really important, especially during these times, to put yourself out there and try to make the most of it. So currently I am involved in a few organizations at USC. And one of the main involvements that I'm in is I am the level 1 representative for VAPSA, which is kind of like the equivalent to VSA at USC. VSA at UCI. Sorry, too many acronyms. You'll learn that once you get to graduate school, there's a lot of different acronyms that you have to know for different organizations. But that's one of the involvements I am in. So there are a lot of opportunities for first years to get involved at USC. Most organizations have first year boards. So there's a lot of chances for you to get to know upperclassmen as well as to meet other first years. And especially now with everything being online, I felt like it's been a great opportunity to get to know my classmates as well as upperclassmen because you don't really get to see them around campus. So to be able to work alongside like other level 1 representatives from the other cultural organizations that are offered at USC, it's been a great experience for me to try to kind of get out of my shell and be more proactive at USC. And for my future plans, I'm not really sure what I'm interested in yet, but Mr. Dibbini was talking about how we have the faculty advisor program. And I recently got paired with one of our faculty at USC, and we were paired through a survey that we had to fill out. So I felt that it really catered to what I'm looking for in a mentor. I'm interested in residency just like Emily is. And my mentor is actually, I believe she's the director of the residency program at USC. So I believe it'll be a great experience for me to get to know more about the program if I'm interested in pursuing residency in the future.
I just wanted to pick up on something Cindy said before we turn it over for questions, and that is the high residency match rate that we have at USC. We really help students with that. Cindy's mentor, Dr. Bill Gong, who works with students specifically who think they might want to go into a residency because they're maybe interested in hospital or clinical pharmacy. A lot of our students also match with fellowship programs who are interested in going into industry. And again, the alumni network, because many of our alumni are back east and now also in South Bay and San Diego, where a lot of the pharmacy industry companies are located. This is a benefit to you, the students, but I just wanted to mention that. And now kind of turn it over to our students and to you guys to ask them some questions that are on your mind. I will take a look at the chat if you want to put it in there. Otherwise, feel free to, kind of go for it and ask your questions, and let's engage some.
Hi, I have a question. I was wondering what opportunities did USC provide you with to help you choose to want to go into a residency, and specifically choose which specific field of pharmacy you wanted to do your residency in?
Yeah, so I can go ahead and start with that. So I did a lot of research prior to coming to USC. So I did know where I wanted to get involved after pharmacy school, but overall USC in general does give a lot of help in that situation. So something they were talking about earlier was the early involvement of your IPPE experiences, so your clinical experiences and clerkships. So basically the second week I was at USC School of Pharmacy, literally my second week, I was already thrown into an IPPE program, which some people might be scared, but it's great experience. And that's why you come to school, is to get these experience. So my second week, I'm first year at an IPPE rotation at Keck Hospital of USC. And I'm with my preceptor, and then a code blue goes out over the loudspeaker, and she's like, come on, we're gonna go to that. And then so this is literally my second week in pharmacy school, and I walk up to a code blue and I get to see everything that goes on firsthand. So that was kind of special to me because it was so early on in the curriculum, and I got to see something that I wanted to be involved with in the future. And when you're here at USC, you're going to get tons of IPPE experiences. You're going to get tons of APPE experiences. And honestly, I feel like the best way to know what you want to do is by testing everything out. So this gives you a way to test everything out. And like I said, much earlier than some other programs that don't have any IPPE experiences until their P2 year or even later. So, and even when you get to your APPEs, USC has such great connections that there's so many different options for whether it's your elective IPPs or once you get to APPEs, and you have so many different options for where you can have that APPE rotation. And then even other than just IPPs and APPEs, there's so many events always going on at USC, so many speaker events or meet and greet events where you can go and talk to so many different USC graduates or just USC affiliated individuals and learn so much about so many various like opportunities in pharmacy. So you really will get to know a lot. And as well as once you get to your P2 year, there's a whole like residency kind of mentorship that you can get involved with that starts pretty early on, and it basically helps you get to residency from your P2 year all the way to your P4 year, but you could join at any time. Like if as a P2 you're not ready to commit to that, you can always just join in when you do decide that might be right for you. I hope that answered your question. It was a lot of words.
It was very helpful, thank you.
It's just kind of adding on to what Aaron has already mentioned. So at USC, we do have quite a lot of different various organizations. And so I think through like the events that those organizations hold, which a majority are like networking events with some of the residency directors actually at various hospitals that are USC affiliated, you can really kind of get to know like what the residency program is all about. And at the same time, you can kind of learn about like what are the different fields of pharmacy that are out there and like which ones kind of like require residency in order to like get a career in that specific field. So a lot of first and second years are exposed to that because we have a lot of panels at USC that kind of talk about their journey towards residency or even like their journey towards deciding what kind of career they want to go into, on top of what Aaron has already mentioned.
Oh, I can add on a little bit more. So I actually had a recent experience of what Emily was talking about with Aaron and Emily were talking about with the opportunities to attend meet and greets. So APSA, which is the organization that Emily is a part of, I am as well, but they have hosted a meet and greet last week with directors from various hospitals or different fields of pharmacy. And we had the opportunity to speak to them and learn more about their experiences. And they really gave great insight into like their fields of pharmacy and their career paths. And many of them also came from out of state. So you're able to get a wide variety of perspectives and not only just from those that are practicing in California.
So I did receive a question privately through chat. So the question is kind of along the lines of like who I had asked to kind of like review my essays for USC when applying to pharmacy school. So I had several people review my essays. I had people that I was close to, and then I also had people that are like friends with me from high school that know nothing about pharmacy, just because I wanted different perspectives on my essay. So the people that I'm close to, I felt like they could really tell me like what I'm writing, is it, I guess like in a way like true to myself and is giving enough information about myself to the people who are reading my essays. And then similarly for people who don't know anything about pharmacy, then they can see if I am like appropriately conveying my passion for pharmacy through my essay. So I had like two different groups of people, I guess, like review my essays. I hope that answered your question. And if Aaron and Cindy have anything to add, feel free to.
I'll just go ahead and add something that just goes along with applying in general. I really recommend to apply as early as possible. I think it makes the whole process a lot easier for you, and it gets you involved in interviews a lot earlier on. Because I remember I was part of the very first interview day at USC, and I didn't even apply as early admission, but I was basically being interviewed with all the other early admission people. And I think that truly does help because like they said earlier, there is rolling admission. So the earlier you get your application in, the earlier you get your interview, and most likely the more openings there still are at USC. So that's my personal advice, is apply as early as possible.
Just to add on to that, I think it's important to apply early as well, just so that you have a better chance. And then you can, it's if you're applying during school, then it's a lot less stressful, and you can worry about your school you can worry about your school and focus on school instead of having to worry about getting all of your applications in. And also, if there's any problems with your applications, then you're able to fix those problems early on. You won't have to worry about it like coming up when applications are almost due and you might not be able to turn your applications in on time if there's issues, or you might not be able to apply to schools that you want.
Hello, I have a quick question. So what made you guys want to go to USC out of the other schools you probably got into?
So for me, it's everything we've kind of talked about today and everything that USC has to offer. I interviewed at other schools, but my main thing was as soon as I knew I got into USC, I canceled all my other interviews and just immediately accepted USC. And the reason is once you get an interview day, you'll learn a little bit more, but USC just, they truly care about their students and they have so much to offer, as well as all the connections. I feel like here at USC, there's so many, like I was talking about earlier, all the different appy sites, all the different IPPY sites, you have so much more to gain compared to going to possibly smaller schools with a smaller alumni network in different cities, not LA. So overall, just the opportunities here are so vast in comparison to most of the other places, as well as the history. The history and the amount of alumni we have just opens it up to so many great options that you may not even know exists within pharmacy. So you may meet the best mentor of your life here. Most likely you will, and they'll be able to help you grow throughout your future. And again, when it comes after the fact, like getting a job after will be way easier and helpful because you have those connections. And the same thing, I knew I wanted to do inpatient pharmacy, and I know USC has so many connections, again, to hospitals around the area compared to a lot of other places. I know they have like maybe 0 hospitals to apply to, or maybe just a handful, where USC, you see almost every week, like, oh, this hospital is hiring 5 P1s to work there for the next 3 to 3.5 years. And they have specific internship programs built to help you progress the next 3 years, prepare you for a career after pharmacy school, or prepare you to attend residency. So all of that together, at least for me, kind of sold me, and I knew it's where I wanted to go to school.
Yeah, I think my situation is my decision making process and when I was choosing USC is very similar to Erin's. So during my interview day, I had a really, really good experience talking to current students, as well as like people who were interviewing with me, who are actually now my classmates. But I just felt that during my interview day, like everyone that was also there was just, I guess, like doing very different things that I myself was not too familiar with. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like you're doing so much, like you're such a great candidate, you're going to be a great like pharmacist later on. And they were just very professional, very well spoken. And I was like, okay, this is someone that I want to be like by the time I graduate. And so then I felt like USC would really prepare me to be someone who is ready to be a pharmacist, who is just professional and, as I mentioned, like well spoken. And so I wanted that kind of growth throughout my pharmacy school, and I felt like USC would prepare me for that. And similar to what Erin has mentioned, a lot of people mention like the alumni network as well as the opportunities presented at USC. And for me, I really like to be involved on campus, like whichever school that I'm going to. And so I really like that USC offers so many different organizations and leadership opportunities for their students during their time in pharmacy school, as well as opportunities for working as well. Because as Erin mentioned, a lot of the hospitals near us are like USC affiliated, and they actually, a lot of them only look at USC applicants. And so, or like in terms of like applying for the internships, like they don't open up to other hospitals. And I think that's definitely something really unique to USC, whether it's our location or just like the quality of the students that USC produces. And I think it's because they know that they themselves went through pharmacy school at USC, and they're like, we know that these students are going to be really well prepared to be a great intern at my hospital. So they only again, hire USC students. And so like, I think going through, like after going through my first year, I really, really see that. And it's even, I guess like when you think of USC, you think of a lot of opportunities, but it really is unparalleled across like other pharmacy schools. I like realized that.
Something that I really liked when I was first learning about USC was definitely the Trojan Network. So USC really stresses that the Trojan Network is something that's really unique to USC. And I didn't really understand like the extent of the Trojan Network until I actually came to USC. It's definitely a lot bigger than you could imagine. Even as a first year, starting my first 3 months, the mentors that I've gotten over the past 3 months, they know so many people, and it's crazy how vast that network is. So that's something that really drew me to USC. And like Emily's, I also had a really great interview day. So that's what sold me in the end.
All right, and I do have a question in chat about why did I take a gap year, because they also are planning to take a gap year. So I never intended to take a gap year. It's kind of something that happened because I had kind of a very serious family issue occurred during my 4th year at UCI, and that caused me to going part-time at UCI. And then ultimately I made the decision to take a gap year because it was something I needed to be around my family for. It was something very serious. And looking back, I think that did help me because it gave me extra time to grow and develop as a person, and kind of I didn't let that gap year go to waste. I don't think a gap year is bad in any way. Some people want to just get straight into it. Before taking the gap year, I honestly looked at gap years as being a bad thing, but now after taking one, I think it helped a lot because during that gap year, one, I continued to work at a CVS pharmacy, so I did gain some experience. And other than that, I was able to just kind of get a head start. So I actually began listening to like pharmacy podcasts and kind of trying to learn ahead of time. So by the time I actually started pharmacy school, I feel like I was already like 1 semester ahead somehow. And that's just because I didn't waste my time in the gap year. You can take a gap year and do absolutely nothing during that gap year. And I think that would probably hurt you because that means you're 1 year removed from learning. But if you take advantage of that gap year and you either get some job experience, which again isn't necessary to go to pharmacy school. Like you don't have to have experience working at a pharmacy to go to pharmacy school. But I mean, it does help. You can definitely get that experience. But again, you can also take it on yourself to get experience or knowledge in other ways, such as, like I said, listening to pharmacy podcasts, doing some studying on your own. And that's something that I consistently did for basically the entire gap year. So I do recommend if you take a gap year, make it a useful gap year. Take advantage of that time you have, and also take advantage of that time before you have this 4-year commitment followed by your career ahead of you. So take some you time as well if you are going to have that gap year.
I did receive some questions through chat, so I'll just address them here because I feel like they'll be very helpful for everyone to hear. So one question is, they were asking about the IPI and APPIs that Aaron mentioned. They're asking if the school chooses for us or if we get to choose the rotation that we want. So in your first year, you have 2 IPIs. So you have your community and your hospital. And so those ones are randomly assigned based on like kind of like your location, like where you're living. So those are randomly assigned. And then between your 2nd and your 3rd year, you have 3 rotations to complete. So that's 1 elective, that's 1 hospital, and that's 1 community. And those ones, it's kind of like a hybrid where you have, like where those sites are and you get to rank them, but ultimately they are randomized and assigned based on like your ranking and then like other people's preferences as well. That way, hopefully everyone is able to get one of their top 5 rotations, I believe, that they ranked. And then for APPI rotations, so those are the advanced pharmacy practice experiences. So those ones are during your very last year as a pharmacy student, as a 4th year. So that's when you're completely done with your didactic studies and you are purely only on rotations. And so before you go on to your APPE rotations, there's something called an APPE fair. So during that APPE fair, it's similar to pre-pharmacy day, where there's several hospitals who have their booth in like one room, and then you get to go up to them and you get to ask them questions about their like rotation, and then after that then you submit your preferences. So these are called your APPE rankings to the school, and then again they're randomized based on your rankings and your preferences. And I think some of the IPPE and APPE ones, for example, the elective ones, if there's one that's like more popular than others, then some preceptors, which is essentially like the pharmacist that's training you during your rotations, your preceptor does require like an application process. So like for some IPPEs, if you really want it, you do have to apply. So that could be like a cover letter, or that could be a CV, and then the preceptor can pick like who they want. So that's for rotations. And then another question that I received was asking if they, by the time they apply to pharmacy school and they don't have their bachelor's degree, like can they still apply? So yes, you can, as long as you complete your bachelor's degree by the time you start pharmacy school. So that would be June or August, because you start pharmacy school in August. So it's okay if some courses are in progress, because if you're not planning to take a gap year, then you would apply during the summer before your fourth year, or like during your fourth year during fall quarter at UCI. So obviously you still have your pharm sci courses to take during your winter and spring quarters, and so those classes, when you input it into PharmCast, will be in progress. And so as Mr. Dibbini mentioned earlier, there's something called an academic update. So that is I guess kind of like once you finish those courses, that's when you update your grades on PharmCast, letting them know that like, okay, I'm still on track to complete my pre-pharmacy prerequisites, and I will be finished by the time I attend pharmacy school. So that's how it would work if you don't take a gap year. I hope that answered your question. And then one last question that I got was, do you recommend getting your pharmacy technician license before applying to pharmacy school? So it's not really a requirement, as Aaron mentioned, to have pharmacy experience in order to get into pharmacy school. For me personally, I actually did not have my license, just because I didn't have time to get my license and apply for a job, because that process can take a longer amount of time. But I wanted pharmacy experience pretty, I guess, like right away to some degree, because I did it during my third year. So I reached out to independent pharmacies around the area, and then I ended up volunteering for an independent compound pharmacy. And so I didn't have my license, and so I volunteered there and tried to do as much as I could that I was allowed to. And I think through that, I was still able to gain a lot of insight on what pharmacy is, and like how a pharmacy functions, and like what the duties are of a pharmacist. And so even though I didn't have my license and I wasn't working, I was still getting a lot of knowledge and gaining a lot of experiences. So I guess in the end, you don't need a pharmacy technician license, and you actually don't need pharmacy experience as well, as I mentioned, but it's nice if you have pharmacy experience only like for your sake, because it can really tell you, like, is pharmacy something I really want to pursue, and is this a career that I can see myself in for the next like amount of years. So I think it'll be really good for you to really get to know what pharmacy is all about before you get into pharmacy school, because that can save you a lot of time and money if you realize like, oh, maybe this isn't the right career for me. So that's why I recommend getting pharmacy experience, but again, it's not required. I just wanted to emphasize that.
But also do remember there's lots of various outlets of pharmacy that are almost completely unrelated to community pharmacy. It does kind of just give you a possible neck up in certain kinds of knowledges, but what you learn working there, you can also just learn in pharmacy school early on, and you won't be behind if you don't. Just adding one more thing, I worked at a pharmacy for, I believe, about a year, possibly over a year before coming to USC, but I actually never got my technician license. I was just working as what they call an RX clerk, which you can do basically everything a technician can do except put pills in a bottle. So that's what I did. So technically you don't need to get a technician license either way. The reason I didn't end up getting it is because the the route I took to get a tech license, you have to work for roughly 6 months or something like that before you can get the tech license. But by that point, it was already so close to me starting school, where the day you start school, you automatically get that intern license, which basically makes you way higher than a technician anyways. So that's why I kind of just never even went through the process of getting a technician license.
Kind of adding on to everything. So even if you don't have any experience, that's why you have your IPPEs during the first year. And as Aaron had mentioned earlier, he had it within the first 2 weeks. So some people will have it early on and some will have it later. I've actually talked to some of my friends from other schools, and I noticed that USC definitely does have offers their students rotations early on. And I think that's something that's really unique because you're able to get experience early on and see if you might like a hospital setting, and you can start applying to hospital internship programs. So for me, I actually don't have my IPPE until winter break. And so I won't know until later on, but I have my I have a hospital IPPE during the spring, and I've actually started applying to hospital internships because I'm interested in pursuing an inpatient pharmacy in the future. But I feel like it's a great experience just to put yourself out there and to get interview experience, as well as learn more about the different fields of pharmacy that are offered, because like Aaron had mentioned, inpatient isn't the only thing, and community and retail pharmacy is different from a lot of other fields of pharmacy that are out there.
I was wondering too, students, if maybe you can talk a little bit about kind of the social aspects. If I'm a person, for example, who's, not a big organization person, how do I meet people at USC? What about the social life there? And any of you can start, Emily or Aaron, Cindy.
Yeah, so there's definitely something always going on at USC. There's always some kind of event or class, or for some reason where you're going to have to interact with people. And to me, that's a good thing, because one, you need to be able to interact with people in your future career. And two, it lets you know people. It lets you start building that network, that connection that you're going to have for the rest of your life, right? So even if you're not directly involved in organizations, that doesn't mean you can't go to events. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be forced to go to class and stuff like that. It may be harder right now because things are online. There can't be events in person, but there still are a ton of events that are happening online basically daily. As well as that, because we're online, there's certain programs that are put in place to help you get to know other classmates and get to know upperclassmen, such as we just started a student ambassador program called the EASE program, where you basically get paired with student ambassadors who then have a group of the P1s, where it's basically 8 P1s and 2 upperclassmen, where you go in and you kind of just have group talks where you get to know each other, and then the upperclassmen help the P1s with anything they need help with, as well as there's certain coffee hours, and there's just tons of different events where you're able to go and connect with either upperclassmen or people of your same level. So if you're a P1, as well as there's always going to be alumni events or speaker events where you can talk to faculty or alumni or whatever it may be, as well as how we've mentioned a million times, all the different mentorship programs. There's faculty mentorship programs, like alumni mentorship programs, ambassador mentorship programs, and basically every organization on campus has a mentorship program. So if you want to get to know people, you will get to know everybody in no time. Like, it is not hard to get to know people. You will establish great connections early on with your own classmates as well as the upperclassmen. And I'm sure Emily and Cindy can attest to that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Aaron said. So I'm also part of the ambassador program that Aaron has mentioned. And even if you are a person who is more shy at reaching out to people, these ambassadors are here to specifically reach out to P1s, because we understand that a lot of P1s don't get the opportunities right now to really get to know their classmates as closely as we P2s did during our time. And so we are more proactive in reaching out to these P1s and making sure that they are getting all their questions answered, they're getting the support that they need. And I guess adding on top of what Erin has mentioned, we do have group projects during our classes. So if you're not, like, if networking events and like organizations is not something for you, you are still able to kind of meet people through those group projects. And so I guess like in a way they kind of get you more familiar with who your classmates are. Yeah, I think personally that's another opportunity if you don't want to get super involved on campus. But I think ambassadors would be a great way for you to kind of get that first connection at USC, because you can actually meet some of them during your pre-orientation and orientation days. That would be your kind of like your first exposure to upperclassmen at USC.
I think I had a kind of a unique experience because I started USC with everything being online. I didn't really get to meet my classmates in person. So for my class, we're actually really close, even though we haven't met before, or most of us haven't met. And before school even started, we had started a group chat, and like we continuously add like students to a group chat once everyone has been admitted to USC. So we have a Facebook group with all of the current students as well as upperclassmen in there. And I felt it's been a great way to meet upperclassmen through that, because different organizations would post about their events or what's going on in their organizations. And through our group chat on GroupMe, we're able to like help each other out. It's been a great support system. And I think that's really important with starting pharmacy school, because it's definitely a big transition from undergrad, and you really need others that you can depend on. So I felt that my classmates have been a great resource to me, and I've been able to like keep up with my schoolwork, because other students would like bring up deadlines or assignments that I might not have seen. And we actually, to bond more, before school started, we had a game night, and I was able to meet a lot of my classmates through that as well.
And then a question that I received asking about kind of like campus culture for those who did have their P1 year in person. So they're kind of just wondering like if people are like friendly and like, so, and they were asking if the environment is more cutthroat. So actually, to be very honest with you, that is one of my concerns when I was thinking about USC, because I think USC's first impression is more like professional. And so I think it can give off the impression that it's not a very friendly environment. But I was talking to current students when I was deciding like USC, and I definitely agree with what they said, with the advice that they gave me at the time, which is that actually everyone is really friendly at USC. I hopefully, like from all the experiences that me, Erin, and Cindy have mentioned before, upperclassmen are super supportive and are there for you for whatever questions that you have as a P1 student. We honestly just want to make sure that every P1 is having a great experience at USC, especially during this time with everything being virtual. But even without everything being virtual, even in person, everyone is just excited to start pharmacy school and excited to get to know their classmates. And it's definitely not a cutthroat environment, even when you're applying to internships and leadership positions. I think you may feel like the sense of competition because you know that everyone is, not everyone, but like, you know, a good majority of people are going for the same positions. But even if like you do, it's not like, there's no such thing as sabotaging, if that makes sense. Everyone, like, for example, like me and Erin knew that we were both applying to this certain hospital, and it's just kind of like, oh, like, how was your interview experience? Or like, oh, like, what do you think about the hospital? Like, we all know that we're all applying to the same things, but there's no like sabotaging, as I mentioned, and everyone is just kind of trying to be the best version of themselves. So I think that's where you might feel like the competition, because everyone is going for the same thing. But as I mentioned, the culture is very much so like friendly, supportive, and they're happy for you if you get the position and like you and they didn't get the position. Like everyone is honestly just really friendly and supportive. But yeah, so I think that's the environment at USC.
Yeah, and hopefully that's something that continues. Obviously, each year there's going to be a new class, but hopefully they learn from the previous classes that it's not a competition anymore. You know, this is grad school. We're not an undergrad. We're here to work together. We're all trying to get to the same place. We're all trying to be pharmacists and healthcare providers and help people in some way. That's probably why you all want to be pharmacists, right? So I think it's basically everything Emily said is 100% true. Like, it's a very happy and rewarding environment. It's not cutthroat. I've never seen something cutthroat happen. Everybody's always very willing to help anybody with literally anything, including faculty members, upperclassmen, or your own class. Like, I've never had an issue with my own class or an upperclassman trying to belittle me or anything like that. That's not how it is at all. I actually miss having in-person class because it's such a good environment. I loved going to class. I loved going to class, getting to see my friends that were the same year as me, as well as getting to see the upperclassmen, as well as getting to see the medical students, the PA students, the PT, OT, because I am involved with some of the other disciplines on campus because of my involvement. So I miss being able to see them too. So I would just say everybody on campus, whether it's a student or a faculty of any program, is very nice, and it's a very good environment to be a part of.
I definitely agree with what Erin and Emily were saying, and I feel that it was really apparent. Yesterday, I actually had an interview for a hospital internship program, and it was really competitive, and there's a lot of students from my P1 class that are applying, but I actually practiced ahead of time with some of my friends from my P1 class, and we actually mock interviewed each other before the internship program had their interviews, just to practice and to get advice and suggestions for each other on how to improve in our interview skills.
And also was applying for a really great hospital. It was Cedars-Sinai, right? Yeah, so again, USC has great connections. Like, we have internship programs at places like Cedars-Sinai and many other great hospitals. So there's just tons of great opportunities here.
Another question that I received was if the PCAT is required for USC. So it is not required. And Mr. Dibbini or Ms. Bryant, maybe you can answer this question. They're wondering if taking it and getting a high score will help their chances of getting into USC.
Okay, I will take that. We don't require it, and so really we want to evaluate all the applicants on a level playing field. So since we don't require it, we're really not going to look at it for anybody, you know, because we're going to look at the same criteria for all applicants. So that's just one less thing you have to worry about. No PCAT.
Allison, we're getting to, I think, the next part of our session.
Okay.
I do want to actually really thank our current students, Erin, Emily, and Cindy. Thank you so much for answering questions. And if we get done early with the next couple of sessions, hopefully maybe during closing remarks, we'll have some more time for some Q&A, and maybe you can ask the students or Allison and I some more questions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, students, and all of you guys also for showing up. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about the interview and the essay questions, because I know that that's kind of a thing that sometimes applicants are a little worried about, that causes a little angst. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things about our method of reviewing applicants that I think will help to put you at ease a little bit. For one thing, we do believe in what we call the holistic review of an application. And so that means we are not just looking at your grade point average, only the research that maybe you did. We're looking at a broad range of characteristics that we think are going to kind of help you to be a good pharmacist, you know, and some of those are skills that are outside just what you learn in class. But when you're building your personal statement, of course, you're going to pull out the things that reflect most positively on you. But I also wanted to say that that's not all that we want to know about you, okay? We want to know if you've had particular challenges in life. We want to know any obstacles that you've had to overcome. We want to know if there are ways that we're going to be able to support you. Sometimes students have particular learning styles and we can help with that. So our goal in looking at all the applications is to look at all the characteristics that make you unique, because we want a class that's diverse, not just, you know, in terms of ethnicity or gender, but also in terms of the way you approach problem solving, the way you communicate, the way you think about things. So we're looking for people to be uniquely themselves, okay? So we're gonna look at those unique experiences about you right along with some of the traditional measures, not the PCAT, but your grades and some of the other things that you've been pursuing while you were in undergrad. We're going to look at a lot of different factors as far as that, and we're going to give consideration to some of those unique characteristics and experiences. So what kind of things are we looking at? What kind of things that you can write about, for example, in your essay? Your unique life experiences, motivation to become a pharmacist. Was there, for example, an aha moment, you know? Was it a cumulative set of experiences that led you to be a pharmacist? You can talk about that. We've sometimes had students who were thinking, you know, the only health career I've really considered is medicine and nursing. But then all of a sudden, I heard about pharmacy, you know, and changed my direction because I realized that the qualities and the things that I would be doing are more me. So there may have been different experiences in your life that led you to say, this is more me than anything else. We've had people who chose other careers and got a degree and graduated and went out to work and then realized that they wanted to be a pharmacist and came back to it. So we really have had people from just about every possible background decide that pharmacy was the right thing for them to do. And so we want to hear about that. We're not going to be offended if you said, you know, I didn't consider pharmacy until recently. We're not going to be bothered that you didn't have a whole lot of experience. You know, I think that Aaron was saying that. We're not expecting that. It's great if you've been a pharmacy technician. We have a lot of applicants who are, but it's not a requirement. What we're really looking for is people who are competent, you know, in the prerequisites that we talked about. We're looking for people who can communicate. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, but those communication skills are key because you're going to be working as part of a healthcare team. You're going to be working with, you saw all the different professions. You heard people talk about, you know, the different folks on campus that they've interacted with. You're always going to be part of a team, part of a group. Even if you're shy, and people don't believe this about me, but I'm kind of shy. And I like talking about pharmacy and I love talking to students, so it comes out more. But even if you're that kind of personality, you've got something to bring to the table, okay? And we want you to be able to feel free to express that and hear what you've got to say and what you've got to add to the conversation. So we want to hear about challenging circumstances that maybe you worked through. We want to hear about challenging life experiences that maybe you went through. We've had students who have gone through everything from challenges with their learning style to homelessness to coming from a different country in high school. I mean, it really runs the gamut, and we want to know that about you. We want to know why you're interested in pharmacy, even if the interest is new. You know, what draws you in that direction? You can find things out by reading, like we have a great magazine at USC called The Results Magazine that we put out a couple of times a year, and it lets you know what our pharmacy faculty and our students and alum are doing. So you might want to go to the website, you know, you go to pharmacyschool.usc.edu, click on the Results Magazine to see the kinds of things that are being done. And so in the interview, you're fluent with that. You can discuss those things and be conversational. And we're looking for people to have a well-rounded lifestyle. We're looking for ways that you might have given back. Even now, some students have asked, well, how are we supposed to give back? How are we supposed to volunteer during a pandemic? What are we supposed to do? And we posed that question to some of our faculty, and we asked, what do you want to see students have done during the pandemic? And their response was interesting. They said, you know, we'd be impressed by students who found a way to volunteer online, even if it's through community service or tutoring kids, non-pharmacy related ways that you can help. So there are always things that you can do to find ways to give back to the community and develop those skills we're talking about. Now, how do you choose a topic for your essay? Many of you may have already been thinking about this, but any of those things that have challenged you, remember that you want to make your essay, you want to have a little hook in there, you know, that gets people a little interested in what you're talking about. Sometimes students will open up with a story from their life, you know, and they'll expand upon that. So there are a lot of different ways to approach the essay to make it a little bit interesting and a little bit unique. But the most important thing you can do is be honest. When students will ask sometimes, well, what do you look for? What makes the perfect essay? What makes a good essay? You know, what if I don't feel like I have a lot of unique experiences? Well, you'd be surprised when you start writing, you know, if you're a journal writer, you know, like I sometimes do, you'll be surprised the experiences that you've had that have made a difference in your life, or maybe even in somebody else's life indirectly. So go back and look at some of the things that you've done and tie them all together, because generally speaking, we're all on a path that leads us to a particular moment. So think about what that has been in your life and how you can express it. Even if they're hardships or challenges, that's okay. That's what makes you you. That's what makes you unique. So don't be afraid that everything is not perfect. It doesn't have to be. It just needs to be authentic. That's what makes for the good essay, okay? Let's see. What about an interview? Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about that with the MMI, but how do you prepare for the interview? My thing about interviewing is something that Cindy mentioned. She mentioned this earlier, how they're looking at interviewing for different positions and they mock interviewed each other. I would say practice. Get with your friends, get with family, and press them to be critical. You know, what do I need to improve upon? Am I sitting here fidgeting? We had a student, you know, Murad may remember this, and he spent the interview with the faculty and student rolling his chair around the room. I mean, I guess he was a little bit nervous, but if you have those little quirks, you need to know about it. And so you need to get somebody to tell you, hey, these are the kinds of things that I'm noticing that you might want to improve upon. You know, you might want to, you know, come across a little friendlier. You might want to speak up a little bit. You might, maybe you're the person who is very quiet and speaks under their breath. You might want to enunciate a little better. Get people who are going to be honest with you about the things that you can improve, so that when you sit down in that interview, you've practiced, you know who you are, the old adage, know thyself. You know what your strengths and weaknesses are because you wrote about them in your essays, okay? And you can sit and look at that interviewer in the eye and you're ready and you're comfortable, because it's not going to be new because you've gone over it. So definitely practice. Know your audience too. You know, you're going to be speaking with faculty and students. That doesn't mean you have to know everything about them, but know that it's a professional environment. You know, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say formal, but you want to make sure that you're coming across professionally. You know, like you've put the time into the preparation, you know, like you're ready to discuss things at a little bit of, you know, a higher level. I think the faculty and the students will help you to feel very comfortable and relaxed. We don't want you to be stressed out. Part of even the virtual interviews that we're doing now, part of it is we're trying to get people to kind of come down and relax before they go into the interview situation, because then you can most be yourself. But practice makes perfect, you know, make sure you minimize any distractions, you know, and you're aware that your body language is coming across kind of comfortable. And then remember too that people might forget everything that you said. They might not remember all the words that you said, but they're gonna remember how you made them feel, okay? They're gonna remember if you were kind of comfortable, if you were honest, if you were authentic, if you seemed confident. Those qualities come across way more than every specific little thing that you said. So again, you want to practice, you want to be professional, you want to be confident when you go into that situation. So rely on your friends, rely on your family to give you some honest critique about that. And I would say doing all of those things, all of that said, you'll be fine. You'll be fine in the interview, and you will find that we'll be very supportive of you. Nobody's trying to shoot you down. We want you to succeed, okay? So just prepare. Any questions before we talk a little bit about the MMIs?
I was about to ask MMI, so.
Okay, your question was
Yeah.
about the MMI?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
no, I was about to, because I did came to last time USC visit, and I did wrote down there's MMI, and then I wrote some notes that kind of confused me. So yeah, I think you can give us a good view on what the MMI is about for USC.
okay. Yeah, that's a good question, Ryan, because I wanted to make sure that's the one thing that, and people are coming to know about the MMIs more, but that's another thing that makes people nervous because they know it's a scenario driven part of the interview, that you're given a scenario and you need to respond to it. And people are like, oh my goodness, how do I know what they're gonna say? I only have a little bit of time to get to know it. Oh, what am I gonna do? Well, you'll probably do fine because the MMI is really designed to kind of evaluate your communication skills. That's really what it's about. Are you listening? Are you using kind of a common sense approach in communicating with somebody? That's really what we're looking at. How well can you get your ideas across? As well as, do you respond well on your feet? Are you able to come into a situation, kind of evaluate it, and give what makes a sensible response to it? That's mainly what we're looking for. You're listening, your clarity in communicating, and kind of your ability to evaluate a situation and respond. And none of the situations call for pharmacy expertise. That's the first thing, okay? You don't have to have had experience to be able to come up with good responses in this type of situation, okay? So again, kind of relax. We're not expecting expertise here. We're looking more for how you communicate. So all of that said, I've asked our three students, Erin and Emily and Cindy, they're going to act out a couple of scenarios, and we're going to let you see what they are. But I want you guys to kind of take a look at how they communicate so that afterwards you can give them some suggestions. You can say what they've, done well, what maybe they could have improved upon, so think about those things. Let's see, Murad, did you have that up, or should I put that up on the screen?
Yeah, you're gonna have to share that one. I don't have it.
Okay, let me share what that's gonna be. The first scenario, I'm just gonna read it to you because our students already have it. So here's the first one. You observe your friend and coworker taking money from the cash register at work to give to her child for lunch money. Okay, so you see this going on. When she realizes that she's been seen doing this, she says the money's gonna be replaced by the end of the day because her husband's gonna come by with cash to cover the difference. But you know that she's breaking policy by doing this, and she could even be fired if it's reported. How do you respond? Okay, I'm gonna turn this over to our students. They're going to do this scenario, and you can see how they respond.
Hi everyone, so in the scenario, I will be the coworker that sees Emily taking the cash out of the register. So to start off, hey Emily, do you think I could speak to you privately for a quick second when you're not busy?
Yeah, I'm free now. What's up?
So I noticed that you were taking cash out of the cash register earlier. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I just really needed to give lunch money to my child, and I just didn't have any at the moment, and I saw it and I was like, oh, I can just replace this at the end of the day. It should be okay. And so I mean, it's gonna get replaced later on. I just really need it at that moment.
So you know that this is breaking company policy, and if someone sees you doing it and you get reported, you could be fired. So maybe there's like an alternative that we can figure out to help you out with that instead of taking money from the cash drawer. Do you have anyone else that could help you out at home, like any other family members?
I know it's wrong, and like I shouldn't have taken the cash or taken the cash from the cash register, but again, I just really needed the money at that time, and my husband's gonna come by like soon to cover the difference. Please don't report me to my manager, because I really need to keep his job, and things are just not going that well at home. There's just been a lot of stuff going on, and finances are really hard during this time right now. So I'm really sorry, but if you don't report me, like I promise it won't happen again. Like I swear.
I think the most important thing right now is to make sure that you should put back the cash immediately, but maybe we can try to figure out an alternative to it. So I can try to help you find a resource that maybe, if anything, maybe I could offer my own money to lend to you, because it's a serious, it could be a serious offense if you're caught. And we can try to figure out something else instead of you having to take out the cash from the register. Because if this happens again, then I'll have to report you to the manager, and it could be a serious problem.
Okay, yeah, I completely understand, and I do realize how serious it can be. And yeah, thank you so much for offering to help me, though. I really, really appreciate it, and I will definitely let you know if I really need more money for child. I will let you know. But thank you so much, though, for offering that for me.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Our scenario.
Great job. Now, what, you're getting a hand from Mr. Dibbini over there. What do you guys think? How did Cindy handle this information? Is there anything that you might have done differently? What are some of the good things she did? What would you have done? Maybe somebody thinks, I just go to the manager and report it. Just jump in. I think we can have a discussion about it. So what are some of the comments?
It was very similar to my own approach, in which you never truly know what someone is going through. So I believe that it's very important to have a compassionate perspective when it comes to situations like this, because we know for sure that she was using that money for her child rather than herself. So we kind of have that perception that, okay, this is truly something that is important to her at that moment. But again, I really liked how she informed Emily of the consequences of her actions, potentially, and also did try to help her in a more productive manner. So that was excellent overall, and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that comment. Other comments?
I think Cindy responded very professionally. I would say, showing why she got into USC. So I think, like, yeah, she responded very professionally, very understanding of the situation. For me, like, if I'm doing this scenario, I would do like about, like, when I imagine it, I would do like around like similar things. One thing she did that did not cross my mind was offering more options instead of just giving the coworker another money. About maybe, you know, having like any welfare support that they can that she can recommend, and something like that. For me, like, when I just think of a scenario, I can just lend her money for like a short while. But yeah, I think that's also very valid too.
Thank you, Ryan. Good points. Good points. She was offering basically to help. Hey, is there a way that I can help you to avoid getting in trouble? Because otherwise, you know, this cannot go further. Good. Okay. Let's go to the second one then. We have another scenario. Let me read you that one. And let's get to that. Okay. Your brother is a high school junior, and he's been acting kind of weird at home. He's been withdrawn and sometimes angry. And so when you confront him and you ask him about it, he reveals that he's the football team's field goal kicker. He's the goal kicker, and he missed a field goal that caused the team to lose a big game against the school's biggest rival. So he feels like that was his fault. And his classmates blame him for the loss, and they're now posting embarrassing images and doing rude text messages, criticizing him, and he's been very upset, and he's even been skipping school the last couple of days. What kind of advice do you give him?
So in this scenario, I will be playing the sibling of the brother.
I will be the brother.
Right. Okay.
Hey, Aaron, how's everything going at home, at school?
I don't really want to talk about it.
Why? Is everything okay? What's wrong?
It's just, I don't know, you know that football game the other day? I'm kind of the entire reason why we lost. Now everybody hates me.
No, don't say that. These are your teammates. I'm sure not everyone hates you. And I mean, I know it was an important game, but I mean, it's just one game, and there's going to be more games in the future that you can show that, you know, it was just a mistake and you can still improve on it.
Yeah, but now everybody's making fun of me and everybody's texting me and telling me it's my fault, and I don't even want to go to school anymore. It's not worth going.
I mean, has it happened before in the past? Do you feel like they're truly attacking you, or are they just kind of like joking around with you?
It doesn't feel like they're joking. It feels like everybody hates me.
No, not everyone hates you. Don't say that. Has it happened before? Like, is this the first time that they're doing this?
I've never done this bad during a game before, so it is the first time it's happened.
Yeah, I know it can be very stressful, and these are your teammates. I know they mean a lot to you. How long has this been going on?
Ever since the game, so I haven't even gone to school the last 2 days because of it.
Okay, we should definitely not skip school, but I do understand why, just because of the pressure. But I mean, do you want to talk to someone about it? Do you want to talk to your teammates or talk to someone like your coach maybe about it?
I don't know what's best to do. What do you think I should do about it?
I guess it just kind of depends on how like close you are with your teammates, because I feel like if there's someone that you're close to, maybe you can just reach out to them and just be honest and say that you're really hurt about everything that they've been saying, and that, you know, if they were joking, and just let them know that, you know, you were hurt by the joking. Do you want to do that first before, you know, talking to someone like your coach maybe?
Yeah, that sounds good. I should probably do that.
Yeah, and then I'll ask, like, you know, how everything's going. Like, don't worry. Hopefully it's just, you know, hopefully that they don't really mean it, but I'll ask you, how's everything going? Hopefully it will be resolved in a couple of days.
Sounds good.
Okay, that concludes our scenario.
Okay. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts about it? How'd Emily do?
Also, just to add, that one specifically was like way harder than the ones I had during my interview. I don't know why. That scenario is just hard.
I agree. I was going to ask Ms. Bryant who wrote these scenarios, because this one was pretty hard.
You can blame me. I wrote.
No, it's a really good scenario, but it is definitely more like tougher than the ones that we had during our interview. And then yeah.
And my husband walked through as you guys were talking. He goes, "Oh my God." It's like psychological stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the worst of it, and it's not like it's a problem that's going to be solved right then and there. But
yeah.
Given the gravity of the situation, what did you guys think? How did Emily do?
So, in my opinion, I believe like she kind of doing a good job when she just really keep asking questions to understand the situation, to learn the whole picture of what like her brother experienced. because at the beginning, he didn't want to talk about anything. He didn't want to mention about it. But like she kept insisting like, oh, did anything happen? Do you feel sad? Do you talk to anyone? I feel like the good approach, because like rather than just jumping to give advice and something, you should like know more about like what she's going through, like and understand like his feeling, understand like his conception, his about like the situation first. But like at the end, I feel like it should be really realistic, strong advice. In my opinion, at the end, I would just like, you just need to face it. In reality, you just need to face it, because it's just like your first mistake. It's your first challenge, and then you will make mistake like again, and then it's just first step. You need to be overcome it. For me, I will be like, after like I comfort him and then make him feel better, I will be really straightforward and like, oh, this is a challenge that you need to face on, because like that will be the next challenge, and then this may be important for you right now, but like there's more like important things like you need to get burdened in the future, and then make mistake about it. You need to overcome this to overcome the next challenge. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Very good. Very good. And that, again, this is a unique situation. Everybody's going to have different thoughts about it and different approaches. And Naomi says, you get back to school and you face those people, you know, and that's fine. And so that's a very valid approach. Who else? Who else has got a thought about it?
I personally have, because, well, this is kind of relatable because like I'm a sports fan too. I know like just like some like one of like our players was like maybe like did a bad job, and then like letting someone like letting like his local rival win the game. That's a very big deal for me if it's like if I'm the fan. And I really understand the situation of how like, you know, players sometimes like they're just like they feel the stress by the fans or like by their teammates about like, oh, they screwed this one up. So I think I will approach the way like how Emily did, where like, oh, you can talk to your coach, you can talk to your teammates, be open about your feelings. I think that's very important to further establish effective communication, and like to make sure this won't happen again in the future. And also I think it is also important, where I agree with you, like having like some sort of self-reflection of, you know, this is like a challenge of, this is a challenge in my sports career. How can I fix it? How can I improve myself? I think this will also very benefit in terms of personally raising like a better self-esteem or like self-achievement, into just helping self-grow in general, like through this experience. And, you know, and yeah, I see like this is kind of relatable because like I do see a lot of hates around fans like, oh, why don't you do that? And then like, yeah, it's
we
very
can,
relatable.
you know, kind of relate to that when all of a sudden I played sports too, and all of a sudden it feels like you're carrying the weight of the world. And sometimes both of you mentioned hearing how that person is processing it and listening again. And Emily did a good job of really pulling out, you know, his feelings about it and his thoughts about that. So yeah, again, the listening process and then communicating and offering options was there. Anybody else have thoughts about that? Do you think basically, do you think there was good communication from Emily and from Cindy and how they handled that? I would rate their communication and their listening skills really high on this. They really were going out of their way to try and make sure that they understood and clarified, and then offered, you know, alternatives, advice, solutions. So again, this is the common sense way that we all have to handle problems in life. And that's what the kind of point of the MMI is. It's not that there's a perfect answer, okay, or a perfect solution. However, whatever way you think is best, you're going to be communicating that, taking the other person into consideration, and then trying to work toward a solution. And that's just life. That's how it goes. So I want to thank our students. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Aaron, for putting yourselves out there and giving us some insight on communication. So now we're coming down to our last few minutes. So I wanted to find out if there are any lingering questions that you wanted to ask of Emily or Aaron or Cindy, myself, Mr. Dibbini. Are there any questions that you have that we can clarify for you now? Earlier, I put in the chat, if you're not already part of our group that gets regular updates from our Office of Enrollment Management, you can go ahead and click that and start getting lots of information about the events that we are offering now, because Aaron's right. We've got a lot going on right now, even though it's virtual. We've got our pharmacy conversations. We've got our information sessions, and a lot of ways to kind of keep you guys engaged in what we're doing. So, final questions. Oh, I have a question that came in on my chat, and is AP credit accepted for prerequisites? Yes, it is. We do accept AP credit. It has to be at least a score of a 3 to get credit for some of your undergrad courses. The way we look at it, you can use AP credit for a statistics course. For calculus, you can use AP BC credit. It has to be the calculus AP BC to wipe out that requirement. We will also use AP credit for chemistry, biology, if it is the first course in a series. Okay, so in other words, if you're looking to use it for one of those courses where we require multiple semesters or quarters, we will use it to knock one of those off. So that's pretty much the AP requirement. And another question is there a source or site, for example, MMI scenarios? Yes, there are some sites out there. If you put in MMI, which is the multiple mini interview, you can see a lot of scenarios where you can practice. And as we talked about earlier, the best way to really feel comfortable in that interview environment is just practice. You know, you can practice the MMI, you can practice the communication, the listening, those kinds of things. So I would suggest going over that so that it helps to relieve some stress. And I guess maybe you won't get anything as hard as coaching your brother from skipping school and feeling like, you know, he's vilified at school. Hopefully they'll be simpler than that. But remember, the basic point of it is looking at communication. Other questions? Okay, well, I guess we're gonna.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Emily.
I was just gonna say, I really want to emphasize what Ms. Bryant mentioned, is that it's important to practice, but again, to keep in mind like the communication behind the scenario. So again, as she mentioned, there is no right or wrong answer. They really want to evaluate how you communicate your solution. So rather than like thinking like, oh, I need to like, so like I had a different approach than Naomi did. So like it wouldn't be wrong if Naomi like, you know, played out the scenario as how she would. But the things that we're looking for is like, how does she communicate like what her solution was to her brother? So those are the things that we look for, rather than like thinking, oh, you should have approached the scenario in a certain way. I just really want to emphasize that as you're like practicing these MMI scenarios.
Good point. Thank you for bringing that up too, Emily, because you're right. There's no right or wrong, but we do want to see you work through the process. So it's a process thing. How do you get from A to B by including the listening skills and the communication skills? So good point. Okay, you guys. Well, I see Emily has put in her email address in there so that if you're interested in staying in touch with our students, you can definitely do that. Please feel free to contact us with any questions that you have. Mr. Dibbini or I, we're very open to hearing from you and helping you and supporting you in any way that we can. And I want to personally thank you for inviting us to your meeting today and turning it all over to us. And I guess part of the invitation was ours too, because we really want to make sure that we keep in touch with you. Murad?
Yeah, just want to echo that. I mean, really grateful to be here and have this presentation with you guys, and thankful to our current students and all of the UCI students. Thank you all for being here today. It was fun to chat with you guys, and we're here, as Allison mentioned. Please feel free to shoot us an email, give us a call. We're all here to help. We know it's not, it could be a stressful process, but we're here to make it an easier one for you. So, and we hope to see your applications coming in soon. Thank you.
With that, I'm gonna wish you guys a great day. Enjoy what's left of your afternoon, and take care, stay well and safe.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.